Everybody, welcome in. Just getting everything set up. Got the background, which is let's see, it looks like a 5.5-inch square. And back from our pick 3, that was a while back, we've got some lemon yellow, rose madder, and ultramarine pale. And if I recall correctly, these were Kuretake Gansai Tambi colors. So they ended up on the paper fairly thick, and this has just been kicking around in our blanks bucket over here. And I picked it up and looked at it a lot of times and just felt like there was too much paint on it. So I took it and just got it wet. Hi, Jody. Welcome in. And literally went to the sink with a soft bristle brush and just run water over it. Just gently take that brush and scrub the paint back. That's one of the benefits of working in mixed media. You can do what you want. So how are you doing? It's nice to see somebody out there. I know I've taken a bit of a break from live streaming and just been working on all kinds of different projects. Had a little bit of time tonight and I thought, well, let's get ourselves back on track with the mindfulness exercises and with live streaming. So I hope everybody's been well. It has been a while. I've probably been I've really just been struggling to get back here. There's just been a lot of chaos and a lot of stuff going on, and I needed to take some time and think about what I'm doing here and if it's helpful to people, and if it's helpful to my own art practice, and if I know actually the pebble drawings are helpful. I question sometimes whether or not live streaming is particularly helpful to my art practice. So kind of grappling with that, and I welcome any feedback anybody's got, either here in live chat or if you're watching on replay. Leave me leave a comment, and I think it's a natural part of the process in any art practice to go through periods of productivity and then other periods where we take a fallow season and just either let the fields of creativity sit and replenish themselves quietly, or perhaps switch gears and engage in other creative endeavors. And those periods of time can help just refill us in our creativity. And it's like anything in life. Sometimes you just need to take a rest or take a break away from something, and then get yourself rested up and refilled, and then you can come back with a a renewed sense of direction about your creative work. So, yeah, Jody, I think you've hit it, and to be fair, the places where I was spending time were not in art channels. I actually do find that um, when I spend time watching other creators on YouTube, uh, it is I find that actually a really positive experience. And when I veer off into some other areas in either true crime or some of the protest work, that those areas can be really draining. So it's not always easy to stick with the things that are that are quote unquote good for us. Sometimes we want to go into the areas that entertain us or that interest us. These swirly, scratchy little marks that the brush left on the paper and the pigments remained are just really cool looking. I don't know if I can get it up close and you can get some idea of the texture that's in this. It's a little bit different than the really slick, overly painted, heavily painted paper that I'm often working with. So anyway, I don't know that I have much to say about what's gone on in those other spaces, because they'll sort themselves out. But I did finally hear back from. Well, let me preface this. Let's switch gears to art supplies. I know. I think in my last couple of live streams, I had mentioned that I had kind of a bummer of a tube of paint, and I contacted the manufacturer, and it took a minute, but I finally did hear back, and they've said that they will replace the paint, and by way of apology, would like to send me an additional tube of paint, and if I would just kindly let them know where to send it and what color I would like. So that's that precipitated the multiple weeks and days of looking at the color chart and looking at the brochure and the over. I think they must offer 300 different colors of watercolor paint if you include their standard range and their granulating range. So it's taken me a minute to kind of decide. And the goofy thing is, like, I know I can go and with just a little bit of money I could buy a tube of any of these colors, but it's like sometimes these decisions seem like they're just, the world depends on picking just exactly the right tube of paint. So, but I've got it narrowed down to I think 3 or 4 at this point. As soon as I figure out, which color, and they're not even close. Like one is there's a violet, and then there's a deep cobalt green, and then there's a granulating black one. Like they're not even. It's not like, well, do I want this shade of blue or that shade of blue? So I don't know. Sometimes it takes a minute to make a decision. So I've also taken time lately to finish, or uh, finish might be too strong of a word, to take some intermediate steps on some of the paintings that had stacked up. I've got them arranged on a wall in my studio, and so I come into the space and have a look at them, and there's sort of a feeling in one's uh, not exactly a gut feeling. It's more of a perception and more of a sense of a visual sense that a painting is finished, or that it might not be quite finished. It might need a little fine tuning. So there were a couple that I had thought were finished, but every time I looked at them, I just kind of went, just not quite there. So I had to balance the urge to continue to work on paintings, and then uh, weighing against that is with watercolor. The more you work it, the more you go into the land of overworking something. So, but I made some progress, added some washes and some more outlines to some of the stones in the field that were just not quite defined enough. So, and if I'm just painting away, I'm perfectly happy to turn the camera on and live stream along with that. But when I'm working out some technical issues like that, I like to just have some peace and quiet. I don't really need to talk it out or discuss it. I just kind of need to concentrate on the technical aspects of painting and move at a pace that is conducive to getting the painting completed. And sometimes I can paint and live stream, and other times I just kind of need to paint. So I was in a bit of a phase with that, but at the end of the live stream, I'll grab a couple of those and let you see what I was working towards. It can feel a little frustrating to have a stack of work that's just looking like it's 75% done. And I was also feeling reluctant to keep adding to that stack until I'd resolved some of those technical challenges so that I could complete it, get a painting moved somewhere, instead of just going, from blank paper to getting it 60 to 80% done. But the art, the work needs to have that last 20 to 15%. So hello there, Steph. So we've also managed to happy spring, everybody. Sometimes that change of seasons is another cue to evaluate the work, maybe change direction, switch things up, do the old spring cleaning in the studio. Just take another look at the old palette. So we, literally have some changes in the way the Earth is, is moving through space. So that is a big cue to us to, uh, stop and take a look. And sometimes you feel a little unsettled. And it can literally be, because we have reached an equinox. I think when I was a young artist, I had this expectation that the creative work would flow and you get up every day, go to work, and for a lot of us, that's not the natural flow. The natural flow is more like the tide. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. Your energy shifts. But if your expectation is that your energy is always going to be consistent and then it shifts, that can really throw you for a loop. And as a young artist, I would go through phases where I had creative work in an area, and then all of a sudden the ideas would dry up, and I would feel almost panicked about pushing through. And you don't always have the same quality of work. It's actually, for a lot of us, natural in our creativity for it to sort of shift over time. And one of the things I learned going through life is that stuff does seem to move away, and you might struggle or feel a creative block. But if you can shift gears and get into some other mode for a while where you can replenish yourself, creativity does come back. The creative work is there, but it's not natural for you to be at 100% productivity all the time. But I'll tell you, if you start to freak out, if you have writer's block or some sort of a creative block, or happen to notice that things are sort of slowing down and you get yourself into a mental tizzy about it, that can extend and prolong the creative block. For me, what helps the process to pick back up is to shift gears, kind of step to the side, maybe work in a different media, or engage in some other activity that helps to, for whatever it is for you, that might help to fill up your resources. One of the things for me is hiking, going out, being out, walking on the beach, just being outside in nature, filling up my eyes and my brain with sensory experiences. What usually doesn't help is, watching hours of YouTube or you know, playing video games or stuff like that. Those don't tend to uh, really fill up the creative tank. And certainly easy to fall into that pattern of behavior. Um, and if it works for you, I guess it's theoretically possible it could. But if you are, feeling a creative slump and what you're doing isn't filling the tank, switch gears and find something that does. Because the tank's not always empty, but it is just natural for it to be at different levels over time. Hmm. So, Jody, if you're still in here, how's your spring going? Noticed where I live here in Oregon, we've had a lot of daffodils, narcissus, and spring flowers start to bloom. Kind of nice to look out, see those cheery flowers. We've also had quite a lot of stormy spring weather, a lot of wind and rain. A couple of days. One day it was 83. I had to switch my heat pump over and from heat only, like high 70s in here. Yeah. Yeah, I went outside and I stood there squinting for a while and then came back inside. I guess I'm not quite ready to stop hibernating just yet. It's like it's spring in Oregon while all the bears come out, like, you know squint at the sun and just have this, what the heck is that thing? Why is it so bright? I don't know. It just seemed like the sun was so bright it was just loud. And I'm ready for it on one hand, but on the other hand, um, I don't relish that hot weather. I got to had the privilege of living in Alaska for a couple of years, where um, and when I lived up there, it's since exceeded this, but when I lived up there, the record high temperature in Anchorage was like 83 degrees, and like it was just fantastic. You just know you're not gonna have to live through any 95-degree days. Uh, but they have since blown way past the 83-degree high temperature. But it was kind of fantastic up there because all summer long, like, these super long days with tons and tons of daylight, where it could be 10:30 in the evening, and you could basically, you could say, hey, you want to go for a bike ride? Okay. And you would still have an hour and a half of daylight at 10:30 at night. So lots and lots of time to get all kinds of stuff done, and never outrageously hot. So Oregon, on the other hand, will have multiple days over 100 degrees in the summer. So we do have to go and get out and enjoy this kind of cooler but bright days in the springtime before that heat sets upon us. Jody says everyone mowed their lawn that one day. Oregon folks crazy the first couple nights days, right? It was like the whole, like you could just hear it just vroom vroom, like everybody starting up their lawnmowers, and it was uh, when I went out and squinted and cursed. I could hear 6 different lawnmowers because I was trying to figure out if my yard guy had showed back up. So I had gone outside to see if he was in the yard, and he wasn't here. Uh, he'll probably be here, the next time there's sunny weather. But and then I was like, boy, I can hear a lot of lawnmowers, and I could detect like 6 different ones around me. So yeah, Jody's not wrong about that. We do. First sunny day of spring, it's like go out and start your lawnmower day. You suppose it's like that all over the place, or just a Pacific Northwest thing? Just some neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio, where 27 lawnmowers going. Jody says that the Oregon Capitol cherry blossoms are beautiful. I have not seen it this year. I actually years ago used to live in Salem, just a few couple blocks away from the Capitol, so I could like go out my front door and just look right down to the Golden Pioneer. And it was actually my very first apartment was right down in that area. So I had the chance to enjoy those cherry blossoms right there in the neighborhood, and they are beautiful. So if you're in the region and it's within a day trip travel for you, I recommend it. The mall in front of the Capitol is lined with cherry trees on both sides. So there's a beautiful view with a fountain, and then the steps of the Capitol, the white marble of the state Capitol, and then the Golden Pioneer on top. So I just as a young person kind of went, oh well, there's a cheap place and a cool building for an apartment, and rented it. Didn't even really know much about the neighborhood or anything. And looking back on it now, it's like what a fantastic little neighborhood. The building was really cool old building that had been renovated, and later those apartments would be ridiculously expensive. But I think back when I was a kid, it wasn't even $200 a month rent for the nice little place. And our government has expanded. We've lost quite a few of those buildings because they've just taken them out, and we've built state archive buildings and other governmental buildings in that area. But back in the old days, it was a sight to behold. Sometimes on these bigger ones, I get started on them, I think, oh, it's going to take forever. Get all these little shapes traced out, and then fairly short order, it comes together. Okay, let me grab a couple of those other ones and get to the art show. And I do have another blank ready to go, so if you guys want to hang out, we can do another drawing here. Looks like it's a little bit slow tonight. This painting had been completed, but every time I looked at it, it just looked really flat. It's still looking a little bit flat, and I'm not sure. I kind of was joking with Maya about this. I do think of accomplished sweet potato, Yukon Gold, red potato. So I guess when I get tired of painting pebbles and rocks, we can move down onto the baked potato portion of my art career. they did come out very potato-tacular, so, which I just find amusing. Oh, God. Is this what? This one is particularly russet-tacular. So, it might be Tater Beach. I don't know. I found a few frames of this painting. Yeah, the reflections are not good, but it's set kind of deeply into this frame. You just have to trust me. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty good in person. This one's been on the pad for ages, and I was really trying to just trying to avoid the outlines, and uh, just knew it was going to be possible to render with paint without using the pigment markers. The more I looked at this one, the more it just seemed to lack definition. And I finally just, I think I had to grapple with this idea of what was I going to make watercolor paintings, or was I going to make mixed media works that included something besides just paint. And my eye just was not happy with this painting as just paint. So I've really explored the granulating colors, the Daniel Smith Primatech colors that are made from semi-precious gemstone. And I, I do the as you know, we've spent a lot of hours here working on these mindfulness drawings that are outlines, and I think I just finally just said to myself, okay, the work right now is just going to have outlines. So I got the pens out and went to it, and as soon as I did and dropped in those dark outlines, I was much happier with where the painting was. I really find the turquoise pieces in here. I'm really satisfied with the variety and with the color range on those, and they do just look like, yeah. This painting actually did not use any of that color. I have another one here where I did use the Sleeping Beauty turquoise from Daniel Smith, and that's tip these guys out and get that glare off of it for you a little bit. Oh, that's a little better. I've touched in some, I think I used a little bit of Soda Light Genuine in here, and then a little bit of Burnt Umber and some Yellow Ochre in that. There's a brightness to it, but yeah, the granulating paints, Jody says, hey, Pondfish, welcome. Yeah, the granulating colors are just, there's so much fun to work with. This uses the Soda Light Genuine. Bring that up so. And it has this flocculation pattern when it hits the water where it just bursts out. And it's almost, somebody had said in another live stream that it reminded them of fractals a little bit. And that's just such an innovation in paint. So I was glad actually to come back to Daniel Smith. I was glad to finally hear back from them on them, because I was quite disappointed in the technical challenge with that paint, and then to just have them be so non-responsive for such a long time. So, but I've had a lot of fun with a lot of their paints, and so I feel like the turquoises in this painting to me look more like just pebbles of actual turquoise, and they're rendered with paints that are, I think I used the cerulean blue chromium shade and magnesium green from Grumbacher Academy, which is a student grade paint, but wonderful color. And some PG50, is that right? Yeah. Single pigment paint of PG50. So maybe because I did have to paint and work on the renderings a little bit more, to me they look more realistic. and then we get into this one, which is like the color's there, but for some reason, it's not quite as subtle. I mean, I like both of them. And this was the most recent one I was working on. And it's almost, I think it was a kind of a quick sketch that I was, just came and had a little bit of time, and I was just kind of needed to spend some time painting. So I just grabbed a square paper and just grabbed whatever paint and just kept going until I was over being pissed off about the thing I was upset about. And the main rocks, like, I'm well pleased at how they are becoming even more three-dimensional. But the background on this is so bright that it's hard to pick out the focal point. But my goal on these is just to create something that if you were sitting and maybe meditating or spending a little bit of quiet time, that your eye would just keep moving around and around. They're not meant to have a focal point. They're meant to deliberately not have a focal point. The more your eye wanders, of course, then the more you can get into that meditative state. So the differences on this one are gone with a really fairly wide. You see the outline is much more bold, and it's almost got a sort of a stained glass look to it. So that was the. Let's see, went back to the microns. I mean, I'm still doing most of the stuff with the accurate one because it works fine and it's very reasonably priced pen. But limited widths, only just kind of comes in the 0.3 that where I can get a box of 12. But there's one in this range that is a 10, and it's got quite a wide tip on it. See how wide that tip is. And it just lays down this nice thick black line. So this is more of a study, and I just kind of wanted to see how that 10 line worked before I went back to one of the paintings, and I'm not quite ready to go that bold. Also, this one is done in sepia and not black, so I wanted a more subtle mid-tone look on that. But it did go back into this one with that 10. So that might be the direction I'm going. Maybe instead of trying to avoid the lines, I think I'm embracing the lines. And look at that green one right there. I think I just have to avoid the potato colors, otherwise it just we turn into a potato field. So yeah, so I just kind of been working my way through some of these more technical questions, and it's the sort of work that sometimes you need some quiet to do. So my next debate is whether or not to upgrade the lines on this painting. And I almost think it could benefit. I think it might be nice with some of these thick outlines. I think it just might punch it up enough to feel like it is completed. So let me know in the comments if you've got any opinions on that, or, you know, I think generally a lot of people just go, if it makes you happy, go do it. It's all right. The worst, and as I am fond of telling anybody who'll listen, you know, the worst that happens is it's a piece of paper. It's not the end of the world if some sort of a creative exploration doesn't quite pan out. What else did I do? I've got some, just been playing around with some little detail lines like we have in here, and then I brought in some white gel pen, which after it dries down you can actually take a You can take a wet brush to it, and I like these nylon bristle brushes because there's quite a bit of spring to them, and it's the water will soften the line, and then you can just move that gel ink back into a highlight. So that's what I've been up to. That's what I've been up to. And coming into the studio, I had this. Just, it's fairly small, but it was up in there, and I noticed that like my eye went right to it. So I think it's helping that lack of contrast that is felt to me like that was an issue. And throughout my career, I've always doesn't matter what media. I could be working in quilts, working in painting, or whatever. I've always struggled to include enough darks and lights. I really like the midtones. I like it whatever kind of art that I'm working in, and usually our work benefits from having some highlights and lowlights. So, uh, when things are looking a little flat, it's usually because you don't have don't have the whites, the lights, and don't have the darks. So, all right. If you guys have any questions, comments. Take take a quick look back. I know I've just kind of been reading, and I haven't been. Some nights I do a better job at reading the comments so that folks can uh, know what I was talking about. But Pondfish got some of the Sleeping Beauty turquoise from Daniel Smith. What do you think about it? Have you used it? What are you using it for? What did you think? I that was one of the last colors that I bought, and I think that's a Series 5. It's one of the more expensive paints in the Daniel Smith line. So I had looked at it, and turquoise is one of my very favorite colors. So I had wanted it, and then sprung for that. I have not. I've been working on paintings. I haven't had a lot of paint out making a lot of new paintings because I did want to bring some of these along and kind of get them over that. They're kind of in a tricky spot. And it's beautiful. So you're a pondfish says I used it a little. I love it, to be honest. It's one of my favorite colors. I found it useful for light reflections on fur. Okay, I'll have to kick over to your. Did you? Yeah, did you? Um, have have you uploaded any of that to your channel? Because um, uh, we should. I had six thoughts all trying to come out my mouth at the same time here. One, let me just sort them out. Um, if you drop a comment on my channel, like after this live stream ends, I will it'll say the live stream has ended, and it'll disappear for a few seconds, and then I will. I immediately, first thing I do when my live stream ends is I go in and I set them from private back to public. So once it goes up and it's public, and then the comments section, not the live chat comments, but the regular comments section will come up. And if you put a post in comments, people can click on your name and then go to your channel. So I always encourage people, leave a comment if you've got a channel, because that will help people who see my comments get to your channel. And if I can remember to put a link in, I'll try to remember to do that. But I have a long list of stuff, and I get scatterheaded. So yeah, that was one of the thoughts. And please support each other. Head out and take a look at the other stuff. Yeah, but okay, you should. So that was my other thought, which is to encourage you to share. Uh, yeah, share, because especially on these Primatech colors, they're made out of non-traditional pigments, and it's not like ultramarine that's been around for centuries, right? It's this new cool thing, and so as people are buying this new product and experimenting with it, it's really something that we can do is share the information about how we're using these new pigments and what they're working for, what they're not working for. Um, I don't know. I like to think there aren't too many artists out there painting, pieces of rock the way that I'm doing. Um, but I really do want to see highlights on fur with that color. Sounds really interesting. So yeah, share your art, make your art, do your do your thing. And whatever the other four thoughts I had have all just escaped my brain. So how do you guys feel? You guys want another little drawing, or what do we feel like here? Do like in my defense, I can paint rocks that don't have pencil dot or or pigment ink outlines, and they're all right. I just I don't know. Kind of, this was one of the earlier paintings. This is the latest painting. So I think uh, I think outlines are my jam. Let's see if we can find. I'll just do a small one, and we'll wrap up with that. Kind of like that one. Let's go with something a little more minimalistic. Yeah, I haven't even been working on backgrounds. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to stop and catch up with yourself and different phases of work. Well, it's nice to see you folks again. I have missed hanging out with everybody. I think I've shared with people quite a bit lately that there was a gallery, and I'd picked up the paperwork for this artist's co-op that shared space, retail space, with a shop that sold rocks and crystals, and I thought, oh, that's perfect, right? Good match for the topic, and felt like people who were stopping in to buy a chunk of agate might be the perfect customer for paintings of rocks. And it didn't even occur to me that, it just never even entered my mind that circumstances might change, and that it might close or move, or just once it was in my mind, it was kind of in my mind. Well, that's there. I went online to see if the co-op rules had changed, and discovered that the gallery, the rock shop had closed. The co-op is, I don't know if they've reformed, but there wasn't any current information. So I think they've closed. And that really just stopped me in my tracks. So, as Google navigation tells us, my brain is still recalculating what to do. 'Cause I was just happily painting away, just thinking about, the space that I would be able to get as part of that co-op, and in this nice little place on this. Whoops. So I'm kind of chuckling about it, but it's just funny. We get things in our head, and then it just feels like it's just permanent as can be, and stuff comes and goes in life. So my autistic brain likes to think that once it's plotted into the brain, like it's there, it should stay there. uh, Not so much. But there there will be some other place somewhere. That is the thing about gallery spaces, is they do come and go. Oh, I still have a little tracking down to do. It is possible my brain is like it. There must be some explanation for it, and it is possible that the artist who did the website, might have withdrawn from the art guild, So maybe they just don't have a website person at this point in time. And don't tell me otherwise. Just not not quite ready to face the reality. Okay. Well, that puts us right up to an hour. I think we're going to call it here. I want to thank everybody for coming in. And if you approve, thank you for spending time. Please leave a comment. And we'll see you again soon. Getting myself back into the swing, and we'll get the live streams back in. And my apologies to you for being so absent. I hope that in the time I've been away, that you have been working on your art and spending time being creative, or filling up your hearts and minds with creative work. Be kind to yourself, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Thanks for spending time. making art with me.